Hello, Spirit Warriors. I want you to get comfy, grab your favorite mug, and lock in with me for a minute because what we're about to dive into today is a cosmic truth bomb that is going to make so much sense. I'm talking about that moment when someone, an unsuspecting hater or a frenemy, caught a glimpse of your spiritual strength. That moment when the veil dropped and they saw you not just as a person but as a force of nature. And let me tell you, that glimpse, it damn near killed them. You know that feeling, right? You've been going through it, the trials, the tribulations, the late night tears, the moments where you felt like you were walking through a desert with no end in sight. But through it all, you didn't break. You bent, you stretched, you grew, but you never ever broke. What you didn't realize is that while you were quietly rebuilding, praying, and staying the course, you were also glowing up on a spiritual level that is not of this world. You were building an inner fortress, a spiritual sanctuary so fortified that it literally radiates. And some people, my friends, just can't handle the light. I was recently reflecting on a story that perfectly illustrates this. There was this one time, a while back, when I was at a low point. Things were not going my way, and I felt like everything was crumbling around me. I had a conversation with someone who I thought was a friend, and they were giving me what they thought was advice. But it wasn't advice. It was thinly veiled pity and a sprinkle of, "I told you so." They were thriving in my low moment, feeling superior, watching me struggle, but something shifted in me. I looked at them, and instead of giving into despair, I felt this incredible surge of peace. A quiet, unshakable confidence that this was all just a test and my breakthrough was on the other side. My face didn't change, my words were kind, but my spirit was an immovable mountain. A few weeks later, my life did a 180. The blessings started pouring in one after another in ways I couldn't have imagined. And that friend, they couldn't stand it. The same person who reveled in my low was suddenly distant and bitter and couldn't even look me in the eye. It's because they didn't just see my success, they saw the source of it. They saw the spiritual strength that carried me, and it was so powerful, so undeniable that it shook their entire world. It was a mirror reflecting their own lack of faith and their own spiritual emptiness, and it was too much for them to bear. This isn't about being better than anyone. It's about understanding the power within you. It's about realizing that your quiet resilience, your unwavering faith, and your deep connection to the divine are not just for you. They are a testimony. And for some people, that testimony is a challenge to their own lack of belief. It's a threat to their ego, and it makes them very, very uncomfortable. So if you've ever wondered why some people have suddenly pulled away from you, why old friends have become strangers, or why your success seems to trigger the very people who once cheered you on, then this video is for you. We're going to break down the 7 signs that someone caught a glimpse of your spiritual strength, and why it's so important for you, chosen one, to stay awake and stay aware. You'll leave here today not just with understanding, but with a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper appreciation for the divine armor you've been building all this time. So buckle up, let's get into it. Point 1, they started showing you unprovoked resentment. You felt it, haven't you? That strange shift in the air when you walk into a room, it's almost physical, like the atmosphere just got heavier. People who are laughing and chatting suddenly get quiet. Conversations turn awkward. Their smiles feel forced. Their eyes dart away, and suddenly you're the topic of unspoken tension. You haven't said a word. You haven't done a thing, but somehow you've become the trigger. Here's the thing. This isn't about you messing up or offending anyone. It's about them, about the way your spiritual presence disrupts the comfort of their illusions. When someone's soul is unsettled, your light can feel like a spotlight exposing the things they'd rather keep hidden. Your very existence becomes a mirror they didn't ask for, reflecting not just who they are, but who they could be if they truly walked in truth. And that reflection, it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's even infuriating. Spirit warriors carry a frequency that can't be faked. That frequency comes from walking through fires others couldn't survive, from choosing faith when fear would have been easier, and from surrendering your ego to God's will. It's in the way you respond to chaos, not with panic or bitterness, but with an unshakable calm. That peace you have, it's not accidental. It's the product of countless moments where you could have snapped, but you prayed instead. And because they don't know the battles you've fought, they assume it's effortless for you. That misconception breeds resentment. On a deeper level, there's a spiritual law at work here. Light exposes darkness, and darkness hates being exposed. This isn't just poetic, it's biblical. In John 3:20 it says, "Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed." You're not just a person to them, you're proof that God is real and that His power transforms lives. That's threatening to anyone clinging to a false identity or a fragile ego. So when you notice those passive-aggressive comments, the nitpicking over small things, and the subtle hostility, it's not because you're flawed. It's because your presence disrupts the status quo they've built around themselves. You remind them, without a single sermon, that there's a higher way to live. And while some will be inspired to rise to that, others will try to dim you instead. But here's the secret every spirit warrior must remember. You don't dim to make others comfortable. You keep walking, keep shining, and keep giving the glory to God. Because for every person who resents your light, there's another quietly drawing courage from it. For every heart that hardens, another begins to soften. And for every room that grows tense when you enter, there's another space waiting to be transformed by the peace you carry. Your light will either awaken or irritate, but either way it will never go unnoticed. And that's exactly how it's meant to be. Point 2, they tried to dim your light with backhanded compliments. Spirit warriors, let's talk about one of the oldest tricks in the book, the sly art of the backhanded compliment. It doesn't come in swinging like an insult. No, it glides in wearing perfume and a polite smile. It's the kind of remark that sounds sweet on the surface, but has a bitter aftertaste the moment you swallow it. Phrases like, "You're so lucky everything always works out for you," or "I wish I could be as naive as you and just believe everything will be okay," aren't gifts. They're spiritual pickpocketing. These people aren't just making casual observations. They're attempting to strip away your spiritual currency. Your currency is your faith, your trust, and your relentless belief that light always finds a way through darkness. And to someone still wrestling with their own shadows, that kind of faith is terrifying. See, faith isn't passive. It's not sitting around hoping the clouds will move. It's knowing that the sun is still there even when the sky is black. And that terrifies those who've made peace with hopelessness. When someone can't fathom your inner strength, they may try to recast it as foolishness. They'll call your confidence luck because the truth that you've fought spiritual battles and still stand unshaken makes them uncomfortable. They'll call your trust naivety because admitting you're wise enough to let go of fear forces them to face their own chains. And here's where you must be sharp, spirit warriors. These subtle attacks aren't about you losing your cool, they're about you losing your center. If they can convince you that your faith is a weakness, they've taken the very weapon that keeps you standing when the world shakes. Remember, what they call luck is simply divine favor. It's the quiet reward of walking in alignment with higher truth, of making choices rooted in love and integrity instead of fear. What they call naivety is actually strategic surrender, a conscious decision to trust a power far greater than your own. That's not foolishness, that's mastery. History is filled with examples of this. Saints, leaders, and visionaries, they were all called naive dreamers at some point. Joan of Arc was told she was delusional. Nelson Mandela was underestimated for holding on to hope during 27 years of imprisonment. Even scientists like Galileo were mocked for believing in truths others weren't ready to see. The pattern is timeless. When your vision and faith operate on a frequency beyond the average, those stuck in a scarcity mindset will either rise to meet you or try to pull you down. So the next time someone hands you a backhanded compliment wrapped in faux admiration, don't bite, smile. Not out of arrogance, but out of recognition. You see their tactic. You feel the fear under their words. You refuse to give them your fire. Because a spirit warrior knows that the very thing others mock is often the exact thing the Creator uses to move mountains. Let them call you lucky, let them call you naive. In reality, you are neither. You are divinely armed, purpose-driven, and unstoppable. Your faith is not for sale, your hope is not up for debate, and your trust in divine timing, untouchable. So, walk on, spirit warrior, head high, heart steady, because the ones who try to shrink your light are proof that it's already shining too brightly for them to ignore. Point 3. They tried to tempt you off your spiritual path. Spirit warriors, one of the most subtle yet profound battles you will face on your spiritual journey is not always the obvious kind of opposition. It doesn't arrive with conflict, shouting, or confrontation. Instead, it often comes cloaked in the quiet tug of familiarity, in the seemingly innocent words of those who once walked beside you in a very different season of your life. When people witness your spiritual strength, they don't just see the light you carry now, they see the shadows of your past. They remember the version of you who stayed out until sunrise, laughing in noisy rooms, gossiping over trivial matters, or surrounding yourself with energy that distracted you from your higher purpose. These memories are not necessarily malicious. They exist because they were there. But here's where the challenge intensifies. Sometimes those remember when stories are not mere nostalgia. They are subtle tests, consciously or unconsciously designed to gauge whether the transformation you've undergone is real or merely temporary. This is where spiritual warfare intersects with psychology, creating a battlefield that is invisible to the naked eye, yet profoundly influential. The tactics are rarely overt. Often they appear in the form of ordinary conversations that seem harmless at first. Discussions peppered with gossip, complaints, bitterness, or the rehashing of old conflicts. In everyday life, it might feel like casual socializing, yet from a spiritual perspective, it's a trap designed to pull you away from your frequency. Frequency, in this sense, is not just poetic language, it has a scientific basis. Research in the fields of biophysics and neuropsychology demonstrates that human emotions emit measurable vibrations. High vibration emotions such as gratitude, love, and joy have been shown to create positive effects in the body and mind, including improved immune function and mental clarity. Conversely, emotions like anger, shame, or resentment generate lower frequency vibrations, which can impair focus, emotional regulation, and spiritual sensitivity. In essence, engaging in low vibration interactions may feel like just a conversation, but spiritually, it subtly disconnects you from your higher clarity and purpose. This manipulation is often cloaked as connection. Friends, family, or former acquaintances might say, "Oh, we're just catching up," but the underlying intent can be to confirm their own assumptions, that your new spiritual life is merely a phase, or that your growth is temporary. If you respond by slipping into old patterns, complaining, gossiping, or dwelling on past mistakes, they mentally validate their skepticism. This is why discernment is essential. Spiritual maturity requires recognizing these traps and consciously choosing not to engage. Your past does not define you, but it can be used as bait to derail your present and future if you allow it. Understanding this dynamic transforms the way you approach relationships and social interactions. Your spiritual journey is not a social experiment. It is a path carved with discipline, faith, and divine guidance. Every moment you've spent stepping away from old habits, releasing fleeting pleasures, and letting go of shallow approval was not a sacrifice, but a strategic investment. You exchanged temporary highs for lasting peace, fleeting attention for eternal purpose, and distractions for focused alignment with your calling. No casual conversation, nostalgic comment, or familiar face has the power to pull you off that path unless you consciously hand them the keys. Part of your spiritual development involves learning to stand firm without explaining yourself or defending your transformation. Your life becomes the proof of your growth, more persuasive than any words. When others attempt to test or pull you back, your response must be rooted in wisdom, not pride. Smile, bless them, and continue forward, not because you believe yourself superior, but because your attention is already invested in higher things. The old you might have lingered in distractions and sought validation, but the new you understands that every moment is a stewardship of spiritual responsibility. Time, not argument, reveals the truth. Patience, prayer, and perseverance protect your frequency, ensuring that your connection to God, your clarity, and your purpose remain uncompromised. Moreover, this subtle spiritual warfare highlights the importance of emotional boundaries. Studies in social psychology reveal that people often unconsciously pull others into familiar emotional patterns, a phenomenon known as emotional contagion. When you allow yourself to absorb lower frequency emotions from others, it can distort your judgment, weaken your resolve, and even influence your neurological responses. Spiritually, this underscores why boundaries are not selfish. They are essential for maintaining the integrity of your path. Choosing to disengage from negative cycles or conversations does not make you unkind. It makes you wise, disciplined, and resilient. Ultimately, spirit warriors, protecting your frequency is an act of both faith and science. It requires awareness, deliberate choice, and unwavering focus. Your journey is a sacred path, not a social experiment. Every test of temptation, whether overt or subtle, serves as an opportunity to exercise discernment, to anchor yourself in truth, and to shine your light without compromise. By maintaining high vibration and by prioritizing peace, love, and purpose over nostalgia or approval, you secure not just your spiritual growth, but your entire life's trajectory. The power you carry is too vital to be diluted, and the frequency you inhabit is worth defending, for it resonates far beyond what the eye can see. Point 4. They spread rumors or negative energy about you. Spirit warriors, here's the truth. The moment your light starts shining a little brighter, you're going to make some people deeply uncomfortable. And it's not because you've done anything wrong, it's because your presence itself becomes a mirror, reflecting back everything they have avoided facing in themselves. When you live with integrity, kindness, and consistency, you become a living testament to what is possible when one chooses growth over stagnation, faith over fear, and purpose over complacency. This is why Maya Angelou's words resonate so profoundly. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. When someone's first reaction to your success or joy is to twist your story, spread lies, or sow doubt, they are revealing their own spiritual and emotional state. Recognizing this truth is liberating. You no longer need to negotiate with or explain yourself to those who are invested in distorting reality, because their actions are a reflection of their own internal struggles, not your worth. This phenomenon has roots in psychology as well, in what is called projection. Projection occurs when people unconsciously transfer their own insecurities, fears, or guilt onto others as a defense mechanism to avoid confronting their shortcomings. Spiritually, projection operates in much the same way. When your blessings, resilience, or joy become visible, they shine a light on what others have ignored in their own lives. And rather than take responsibility for their stagnation, they lash out. This is why gossip, slander, and criticism often reveal more about the speaker than the target. It's a defensive reaction to your progress, a subconscious acknowledgement of what they desire but have not achieved. Your growth, therefore, becomes both a mirror and a challenge, a reminder of potential they have yet to embrace. Yet, this is where spirit warriors are fundamentally different. Your identity and reputation are not determined by the words of others. They are anchored in the hands of God. Every slanderous whisper, every misrepresentation is still seen by heaven, and nothing said against you can cancel the divine purpose inscribed on your life. History and scripture abound with examples of this truth. Take Joseph, for instance. Betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and falsely accused, Joseph's life seemed derailed. Yet God's hand guided him to a position of influence, using the very circumstances meant to harm him as a conduit for blessing and redemption. The same principle applies to spirit warriors today. Attacks, lies, or envy cannot undo what God has ordained for you. In fact, these challenges often serve to strengthen your character, deepen your faith, and clarify your purpose. Moreover, it's important to recognize a subtle but profound truth. People rarely throw stones at trees with no fruit. If you are being targeted or envied, it's a sign that you carry something of extraordinary value. Your kindness is rare, your inner peace is precious, and your dedication to purpose is threatening to those who settle for mediocrity. In a sense, gossip and criticism serve as inadvertent advertisements of your virtues. The very effort others expend to undermine you underscores your worth. Even in the natural world, attempts to stunt growth often result in stronger roots, and the same principle applies spiritually. The enemy, whether in human form or spiritual opposition, may assume that words and rumors can bury you, but in reality they provide opportunities for resilience to deepen and for your light to shine brighter. So, spirit warriors, do not dim your light to make anyone else comfortable. Allow them to talk, twist, or misinterpret, because no matter how loud the voices against you, They cannot touch the truth that God has placed in your heart. Dirt cannot cling to a soul washed in divine truth. Keep walking humbly, keep showing kindness, and continue giving glory to God in every circumstance. The stories others try to write about you are temporary. The story God has authored is eternal. When the dust settles, your light, your resilience, and the victories you've walked into will shine undeniably. Your journey, marked by faith, courage, and unwavering integrity, becomes a testimony not only of survival, but of divine orchestration. Those who once sought to diminish you will find they cannot erase the legacy of light you leave behind, nor can they rewrite the ending that God has already composed. In the end, spirit warriors, remember this: your brightness is not a threat, it is a guide. Every act of envy directed at you is simply proof that you are walking in alignment with your higher purpose. Every whisper of doubt cast your way is a reminder of how far you have come. Your life, when lived in faith, courage, and integrity, becomes an unshakable testimony that no opposition, no matter how persistent, can change the outcome God has designed. Keep shining, keep growing, and never allow the shadows of others to obscure the light that God entrusted to you. The world will notice, the heavens will affirm, and your victory will be undeniable. Point 5. They became hypercritical of your beliefs. You know the type. One moment they're scrolling through memes about cats in sunglasses, and the next they've crowned themselves the unofficial professor of religious studies without ever cracking open a theology textbook. Suddenly they're dissecting your beliefs like it's a science experiment, leaning back with that smug little grin as if they've just solved the mystery of the universe. They'll question your prayers, scoff at your rituals, and drop lines like, "Oh, you still believe in that? That's so old-fashioned." But let's be real. This isn't curiosity. This is a power play. They're not seeking truth. They're seeking control. And the easiest way to control someone is to make them doubt themselves. Here's the thing they don't understand. Faith isn't just a Sunday ritual or a dusty old tradition. Faith is an unshakable anchor, a quiet fire burning deep in your chest. It's the kind of thing science can't measure and skepticism can't dismantle. Studies have shown that prayer and meditation can literally change the brain, strengthening the prefrontal cortex, lowering stress hormones, and even boosting emotional resilience. Faith isn't ignorance, it's strength. And when you walk with that kind of spiritual backbone, it's intimidating. People who live without it can feel exposed, even threatened, because your certainty highlights their uncertainty. So they start testing you. They use logic like a sword, trying to slice through your convictions. They quote philosophers they barely understand. They twist religious history into a weapon. It's like watching someone who's never touched a piano try to play Beethoven, loud, clumsy, and just a bit embarrassing. But here's where a spirit warrior stands apart. You don't take the bait. You know that no one can argue you out of an experience you've lived. You've felt divine protection in the midnight hour. You've witnessed answers to prayers that no spreadsheet could explain. Your faith isn't theory, it's testimony. What they see as old-fashioned is actually timeless. Civilizations have risen and fallen on the strength of spiritual conviction. Wars have ended, empires have shifted, and lives have been transformed because someone believed in something greater than themselves. And you, spirit warrior, carry that same lineage. When you pray, you're tapping into the same force that guided ancient kings, freed oppressed peoples, and inspired the world's greatest acts of compassion. That's why their skepticism doesn't shake you, it sharpens you. Every jab they throw becomes another opportunity to stand firm. You don't need to shout your beliefs from rooftops or launch into heated debates. Your calm, steady presence says it all. I know who I am and I know whose I am. And deep down, that unnerves them more than any argument ever could. Because here's the truth. They may act like your faith is outdated, but part of them envies it. They wish they had that kind of certainty. They wish they could sleep at night knowing they're held by something infinite. They wish they could walk through storms with the kind of peace you carry. So they prod, they mock, they challenge. Not because you're wrong, but because your very existence whispers, there's more to life than what you can see. And for someone clinging to the visible, that's terrifying. So let them talk. Let them flex their logic. You keep your armor polished with prayer, your spirit sharp with truth, and your steps aligned with purpose. Because a spirit warrior knows you don't need to convince anyone of the light. You just keep shining, and those who are ready will see it. And those who aren't, Well, they'll keep trying to explain it away, right up until they feel it for themselves. Point 6. They were suddenly uncomfortable around your peace. Have you ever noticed how some people seem allergic to your silence? The moment things get quiet, they rush to fill the air with chatter, drama, or gossip, as if stillness itself is unbearable. This isn't random, it's because your peace is not just a mood, it's a spiritual frequency. When you've done the inner work, when you've fought your battles and claimed victory over your own mind, you carry a calm that is unshakable. That calm is a direct reflection of your spiritual strength, and for those who live in chaos, it's unsettling, almost threatening. To them, your stillness is not passive, it's power. You see, peace isn't just the absence of noise, it's the mastery of self. Spirit warriors know this. You've trained your soul to remain unmoved by storms because you've already weathered hurricanes inside yourself. This is why you no longer bite the bait when someone tries to provoke you with emotional traps. Chaos addicts, people who thrive on conflict, can't stand this. It's like trying to extinguish a candle with gasoline. The more they try to rattle you, the brighter you shine. And here's the truth. Most people who fear your calm have learned to navigate life through manipulation, emotional hooks, and reactive energy. You've taken their favorite weapon, your reaction, off the table. On a psychological level, this is fascinating. Human beings are wired for mirroring. Our nervous systems subconsciously pick up on the energy of those around us. If someone is agitated, it often stirs agitation in us. But when your baseline is serenity, you disrupt that cycle. You don't meet anxiety with anxiety, you absorb it and respond with stillness. That forces people to confront their own restlessness, which many find deeply uncomfortable. For the drama dependent, it's like looking in a mirror they've been avoiding their whole life. Spiritually, your peace is more than just a coping mechanism. It's a signal. It tells the universe and everyone around you that you operate from a place of alignment. You're not chasing validation, and you're not hungry for control over others. Your energy is self-sustaining. This is why manipulative people can't get a grip on you. They can't pull you into their narrative because you've already written your own. In spiritual traditions worldwide, whether it's the Zen monk in a mountaintop monastery, the desert hermit in deep prayer, or the indigenous elder speaking softly around the fire, true power has always been associated with quiet authority, not loud dominance. And here's where the entertainment factor comes in. Watching a chaos lover try to engage you is like watching someone argue with a statue. They throw accusations, gossip, or passive-aggressive comments, and you respond with a level gaze and maybe a small knowing smile. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. You're not ignoring them. You're refusing to be recruited into a war that doesn't belong to you. This is your divine superpower, spirit warrior. In a world addicted to noise, you are the rare frequency of stillness. And that stillness is not weakness. It's the mark of someone who has conquered themselves. You've learned that sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all, not because you're disengaged, but because you're operating on a higher battlefield where the fight isn't for attention, it's for the soul. That's why they squirm. That's why they poke. That's why they gossip. Your peace exposes the truth. Without chaos, they have nothing to stand on. Without reaction, their power over you dissolves. And so you keep walking unbothered because you know that the loudest person in the room isn't always the strongest. The one who can sit in silence and still command the space. That's the true warrior. Point 7. They started copying you in a weird way. All right, spirit warriors. Let's talk about one of the most unintentionally comical, yet slightly tragic things you'll see on this journey. The great spiritual impersonators. You know the type. The moment your life starts radiating a new level of peace, strength, and God-given glow, they suddenly decide they're going to level up too, except they skip the actual spiritual work. Instead, they try to duplicate the look of your transformation without touching the roots that created it. They start sprinkling in the same phrases you use: trust the process, walking in alignment, protecting my peace. And they fill their feeds with sunsets, scripture snippets, and Pinterest-style affirmations. But here's the thing. When you look closer, you can tell it's all cosmetic. It's like buying a gym membership, but never actually going. You've got the card in your wallet, but no muscle to show for it. Why? Because true spiritual growth isn't just about sounding wise or looking serene. It's forged in the unseen places. It's in the prayers whispered at 2 a.m. when nobody's watching. It's in the discipline of saying no to temptations that would pull you backward. It's in the daily surrender of ego, the willingness to forgive when it's inconvenient, and the quiet conversations you have with God that no one else will ever know about. That's the furnace where real strength is made. The sad part is that they genuinely think they can skip the refining fire and still get the gold. But what they end up with is a blurry imitation, a spiritual photocopy of your journey. And much like an actual photocopy, the more times they try to replicate it without the source, the more faded and distorted it becomes. They might fool a few people who don't know the difference, but to anyone who's truly walked the path, the gap between the image and the reality is obvious. Here's the funny part: their imitation is actually a compliment. They saw something in you that shook them, something unshakable. They saw you face storms with a calm they couldn't understand, and instead of asking how you got there, they just tried to wear the costume. But spirit warriors, you know, costumes don't win battles. Armor does. And armor is earned. So don't let the mimics distract you. Let them post, let them perform. Because while they're trying to copy the look of the victory, you're still in the field, fighting the real fight, anchored in the one who gave you your strength in the first place. And that, my friends, is why no imitation will ever outshine the original. My beloved chosen ones, remember this. Your spiritual strength is not just for your benefit. It's a signpost for the world, a testimony of God's grace and power. The fact that your light is making people uncomfortable isn't a curse, it's a blessing. It means your connection is real, your growth is undeniable, and your purpose is divine. Don't shrink to make others feel comfortable. Don't dim your light to appease their insecurities. Instead, stay awake, stay aware, and keep glowing up, because they caught a glimpse of your power, and now they know you're not just a person. You're a living, breathing testament to the grace of God. And that, my friends, is a damn near beautiful thing. Now go on, you magnificent spirit warrior, and shine your light. Don't you dare stop. And I want to hear from you in the comments below. What's a time you realized someone was threatened by your spiritual strength? Share your story. Let's build this community. I'll catch you on the next one.